Welcome to Manhwa Recaps, spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Huge shout out and special thanks to the channel members. A little later, Mary tells Chris that the grimoire he has chosen contains a 4-star dark magic called Binding Seal, and as he is now, he won't comprehend it. Chris closes the book, but tells her it's fine because he's a genius. She clearly doesn't think that's the case, but pretends by saying that not only is he handsome, but he's also a genius, and that's truly super, but he can tell that she's forcing it and tells her to stop doing it. She asks if there's a reason he specifically chose the book, and he says of course, as he needs to catch a rat. A little while later, as he's training with everybody else, he explains that the first potential rat is Thurn. No one in this house despises him more for being a good-for-nothing, and the second potential is Cox. Even though he's not a descendant of the clan, he has free access to the punishment cave, and fiends prioritize power over social status, yet he circles around Chris, sucking up to him. It could also be a third party he is not yet aware of. Whatever the case, they want to see him in ruins, seeing how they provided him with a dream stone in the punishment cave. He wonders if maybe he should act like the bastard they want him to be, and then whoever looks happy with him acting out would likely be the culprit. He screams, saying that this training is way too hard, and leaves, telling them to have fun, and he quits. The other trainees wonder what's wrong with him, and then we see him breaking a plate at dinner, and his father yells at him, but Chris says the servant should have given him proper food to begin with, and he tells her to not just stand there and remake his food. His father seems disappointed, saying that he's a fool for thinking he's matured, and walks out of the room. Chris says he feels bad, but it's for the good of the family, so he hopes he understands. He worked hard to spread rumors that he'd returned to being a bastard, he bullied maids while they were cleaning, and wasted money like it was water. We see a wine glass being poured, and Chris asks Mary why she won't let him drink the wine, and she tells him that he's doing it right now though. He says he can tell it was non-alcoholic. She says that since he's underage, he can't be drinking, and he asks why that matters, since he's still good for nothing. She asks if he's decided to be a bastard again, saying that's fine even so, because she'll stay forever by his side. He says it's like he told her, he's just trying to catch a rat. As we see a spell forming in front of him, she's surprised to see he already mastered the binding seal. He does his best to play it off, saying that he told her he's a genius, and he modified it to be usable even at a lower star level, and he hasn't been just goofing off, he's been working hard at mastering various spells. She wonders if maybe he's truly a genius, then Thurn slams the door open. Chris says he needs to act drunk quickly, asking Thurn what he's doing here. Thurn asks if this is the best he can do, as he thought he had truly changed for the better. Chris can tell he's angry, and he decides to cross him off as a suspect. He smiles and tells Thurn that he thinks there's a rat hidden in the house. Thurn asks what he's talking about, and Chris says someone wishes to see his downfall, and he intends on dancing to their tune for a while. Thurn asks if he's really saying it's all an act, and Chris says yes, even the wine is fake. As Thurn smells it, he can tell it's not alcoholic, asking who the rat is. Chris tells him that it's hard to say right now, but they should take the bait any day now. As he throws the wine bottle to the ground, one of the butlers runs in, asking if something's wrong. Chris says this isn't the wine he asked for, and to bring him another one. The butler tells him that Cox is currently preoccupied, and Chris says that he guesses he needs to pay him a visit, while still acting drunk. Thurn says he's playing this role too well, and then it jumps to Chris slamming a bottle right in front of Cox's face. Cox asks what brings him here, and Chris pours the bottle over his head, saying this is not the wine he asked for, wondering if he's looking down on him. Cox says of course not, asking if he wants High to go get someone to fetch a proper one immediately. Chris says no, telling Cox to go grab it himself. Cox, clearly frustrated, says that he's in the middle of something. Chris asks if he's going to work like this, saying that he needs to go change anyways, so to get going. Cox then begins to shake visibly, and says he'll be back soon, and walks out of the room. Chris says that he needs to commend his patience in withstanding such humiliation, but that hostility was very clear. Chris starts looking over all the paperwork Cox has been working on, and he looks surprised, but then smiles, saying that this is it. He figured that if Cox was the rat, he would be doing some funny business with the finances, but this isn't enough, as he needs a real smoking gun. As Cox comes back, he says he has the wine for him, and Chris thanks him, asking if he's not mad at him. Cox says of course not, and Chris laughs, saying that he doesn't know if he can tell, but Cox is his favorite. Cox tells him that he's grateful for that, but he has a message for him. As his friends wish to meet him in secret at the usual place, Chris asks what he's talking about, and Cox says although he would prefer him not to associate with them, it is not his place to be judging his friends. Chris says that he guesses he'll meet them then, and Cox tells him to do as he wishes, but he can't help but smile a little bit, saying that things are going better than he expected them to. It then jumps to a whole table of food. And we hear someone telling Chris that they've heard rumors that he's changed recently. But there's still no way that he's the best among them. Chris glances to his side, seeing a young woman, saying that getting a girl this young to pour drinks sure does cement them as trash. Lardass tells him to have a drink. And as Chris raises it to his mouth, he senses something and throws it, hitting Lardass straight in the face, which causes him to panic and cough. He asks Chris what he thinks he's doing. Chris says he knows he tainted the alcohol. From the way he reacted, it looked like he knew there was something in it. Chris then raises his hand, starting to form a magic spell, and puts it straight to the girl's forehead. And as it begins to glow, she slumps over, unconscious. His friends ask if he really knows how to use dark magic. Chris says he doesn't think now is the time for them to be surprised by that. He grabs Lardass and Pompadour by their heads, slamming them straight into the table. But not just once, he does it over and over. Lardass asks why he's doing this, trying to calm him down. Chris says if he still doesn't know what he did wrong after getting hit like that, they can die here and now, as he pulls out a knife. A little later, we see them tied up, and Pompadour has even pissed his pants, begging that he be spared, as they were only ordered to feed him the drug and frame him after they killed the girl. Lardass says they were threatened with the drugs they were dealing in secret, so they had no choice. Chris asks who was the one who ordered them, and Pompadour is hesitant to answer. Chris then moves the knife closer to the man's crotch, asking if he wants to have it cut off. They immediately say it's Cox, and they'll do anything to spare their life. Chris asks if they really mean that, and they both say they swear on it. Chris says he can't hear them, they yell it even louder. He says that he'll take their word for that. As he begins to cast another magic spell, it starts flying into their foreheads, and he tells them to listen to what he tells them and carry it out properly. They both fall unconscious onto the floor, Pompadour even foaming out the mouth. A little later, Cox runs into Chris's father's office, saying there's a problem. When he asks what it is, Cox says that the young master has committed murder. It seems he got drunk at night and killed the one who was giving him drinks and threw their body into the river. It seems they won't be able to overlook this one so easily, asking him what they should do. Chris's father tells Cox to bring him to the Fiend Court, as he invokes his immediate trial authority. Cox smiles, thinking that his plan is going perfectly. At the court, we see Chris standing trial, and he tells his father that he's innocent. His father asks if he really plans to lie, as there are witnesses. Chris asks how that could be the case when it never happened, and that he thinks there's just been a misunderstanding. As the young woman enters the room, he says that this is the dead servant herself. Lardass and Pompadour look genuinely surprised by this. She says that Chris took her home after she woke up from falling unconscious, and he even gave her money to help her pay her rent. But Pompadour and Lardass are the evil ones, and they put drugs in Chris's drink. His father asks what's going on here, and Chris decides that it's time to get this show on the road and begins activating his magic. Lardass says that it's correct, they gave false reports, and Pompadour says it was because they were given orders by the butler Cox to frame the young master. Cox starts panicking, asking what kind of bullshit they're spewing, and that this is slander, and that Chris and his friends are trying to frame him. Cox also tells Chris that the joke's gone on for too long, and he's crossed the line. But Chris knew he would react this way, and he says as the victim of this incident, he would like to request one thing. His father asks what it is, and Chris says that he wants him to act as a proxy of his authority to directly question Cox. His father looks a little confused but decides to go along with it, saying that he'll leave it to him to head the defendant's stand. But to know the moment he acts in a way that is inappropriate, his authority shall be revoked immediately. Chris says that he'll finish this quickly, and as the representative of the great ruler of the Magic Empire, the Demon Emperor, and as a member of the Dark Magic clan that governs the eastern region of the Southern Magic Kingdom, and as a representative of Count Khazar, he will now question the defendant. he asks Cox if he swears that he will only answer with the truth to his words. Cox says that he will, and Chris says that as a representative of the Demon Emperor, he asks if he swears to only answer the truth. Cox says that he does, and then a magic spell begins to float towards his forehead, causing him to hold his head in pain. He wonders what the hell is going on. Others start to recognize it as the binding seal, asking how a mere brat could use a 4-star dark magic. Chris says that this was modified so it could be used at a lower star rank, however, it has additional conditions, and that is he needs the target to swear twice, and that Cox has now fallen right into his trap. Cox asks him what he just did, and Chris says that he just swore that he will answer with nothing but the truth, and asks what the reason he hired his friends to slander his name was for. Cox's head starts to feel hella painful as he lets out a scream, and he says that he received an order, and that there was a man who knew of his corruption and threatened him, telling him to ruin the young master, and this is why, from when he was young, he has been sabotaging him. Chris says that by corruption, he's talking about the embezzlement he's been committing for quite some time, and he's already seen through that as well. He leaps down, asking Cox who gave him the order. Cox says that if he says it, then he'll be in a bad position, but Chris uses the binding spell, telling him to speak now. Cox says that it was Sir Eshid, and that it was the second son of the Dark Magic clan, Sir Eshid de Baron. Cox panics and says that he needs to run away before he gets killed by him. But Chris draws the blade from the nearby guard and cuts Cox's head clean off, much to his father's surprise. Chris says that by the borrowed authority from the Count, he has punished the sinner, as Cox's corpse lays there on the floor. His father asks why this was the decision he came to, and Chris says that had they left Cox alive, the main family would have fabricated evidence and covered up his incident, and they cannot be indulgent with them. Furthermore, he intends to ensure that everyone remembers the truth of it, and that Eshid tried to sabotage him. His father looks a bit anxious, and then snaps his fingers, telling him to follow him as he opens up some kind of gateway behind him. Chris enters, asking where they are. His father says that this is a secret training ground, as there are too many eyes in the courtroom. His father then says, about what he said just now, asking if he means to say that Eshid will cause more trouble as a result of the succession conflict. Because a family's power and authority is directly tied to the successor they support, he tells him his decision was correct, but he feels that he may have acted hastily. However, with things as they stand now, they will have to support the first young lady. The first young lord isn't an option because he is a crazed, bloodthirsty lunatic. Chris says there is also another option, which is for he himself to become the successor. His father says that's nonsense, but Chris says that someone from a branch family can be recognized as a successor if they possess the necessary ability. His father says that's just a role by name alone, and it is not enforced. Chris says that he doesn't really know about that, because why else would Eshid try to sabotage him? His father says that he may have been more talented than Eshid in his childhood, but he's been lagging quite far behind him now. Chris says that he'll make quick work of catching up, but to do that he needs his help. He wants his father to use his authority to recommend that he participate in the Sacred Dark Rite 2 months from now. His father tells him that he'll need to be a 2-star to participate, and that he only just obtained 1 star. Chris says that he'll make sure to reach it within the next 2 months then, so surely this one time his father can help him out, and he smiles. Sometime later, we hear the maids talking about how it seems Chris truly has changed, and they have heard that the Count himself has been personally training him. Mark Zuckerberg asks if she means the same training that even the senior knight struggled so much with, and that he doesn't know how long Chris will last. As we see Chris cutting something cleanly in half, he says that he needs to bind it with mud swordsmanship, and then sever it with black scythe swordsmanship, asking his father if he's correct. His father says that he only started teaching him this today, yet he understood it immediately. Chris asks why he has to keep doing it this way, because keeping them separate is so weird. His father asks what he means, and Chris says that he feels like there's a more efficient method. As another mushroom monster spawns in, Chris runs forward, cutting its legs clean off. His father says that was mud swordsmanship, asking how he did that when it's not meant for slicing, and Chris explains that he only used the mud swordsmanship, but he wrapped it in the black scythe sword energy. His father internally is freaking out, saying that's not something a 1-star should be able to do, but plays it cool, saying that's pretty powerful, but using 2 techniques means it's going to be difficult to use curses too. Chris shows that he can still do it anyways, and says that it's still pretty easy, and it's not really an inconvenience at all. His father then freaks out externally this time too. It jumps to 2 whole weeks later, as Chris is laying on the ground. He says that running is so hard, and it's not like he can half-ass this, since stamina is key to increasing his power stage. We then hear Melon asking if he's already exhausted, as the duel isn't far off, and she's eagerly waiting for the promised day to arrive. He says she always has such an intense presence, and that he's doing his best to meet her expectations. She says that she's aware of his growth, but he's still a 1-star, and he'll never get her to kneel before him. He says that he's sure it would happen, and he's sure he'll learn something through the duel, so it won't be for nothing if it doesn't. She laughs, saying that he's still full of energy, and she hopes he fights past his limits and entertains her. He says that she is currently an upper 4-star. We learn that in a single stage, there are 3 separate tiers: lower, middle, and upper. As an upper 1-star, he is way below her level. However, he comes from a rich family, which means that he's a wallet warrior. As he enters his room, he asks Mary if she's finished packing his bag for the outing, and she says of course, and that since it's their first outing together, she made sure to dress to impress. He says that he never said that she was coming with him, though, and she laughs, saying that he must be worried, and she's gonna get a heat stroke from this, and that he shouldn't care because it's her pleasure to serve him. He asks how a banshee is meant to get a heat stroke in the first place. He recalls asking his father if he could change to a human attendant, and his father says he cannot, since he made a contract with Mary, and that a high-ranked banshee cannot be managed without a contract. And he asks his father if he could even tell him how to avoid the contract then, and he says that it's going to be him sharing a very deep kiss with Mary, and Chris says that he can't believe Christian did this in the first place. He tells Mary that she can't come with him, as he's headed to a place with lots of people. She looks so sad, saying that she was looking forward to going out, and he says that it's just her spiritual energy might injure people. She keeps the puppy dog eyes, saying that she's been stuck in here for decades now, and bro can't believe that she's this sad about it, and folds into zero pressure, saying that she can come along, but she just shouldn't show up around others. She says that he truly is the best, being all excited, and he tells her just to follow him. She asks where they are going, and he says that it's somewhere he can make a profit. She reminds him that he already has a lot of money, and he starts dropping his coins on the ground, and he tells her to stop doing that. She says if he's not going for money, then maybe he's going for land ownership. He says that's wrong too. She asks what it's for then, and he says it's for something he used to use before. We see Thurn in the carriage, saying that he's late, and Chris asks what he's doing here. Thurn says that he's here to watch over him in case he begins to behave like a bastard again. Chris tells him not to worry about it, as he's merely on his way to go gambling and nothing more. He says they're fiends, so it's a given that they're close to alcohol and gambling is something even the Demon Emperor recommends, and there's a reason that's legal. Thurn says that he should follow him there then. Chris then asks if it's perhaps because he's worried about his big brother. And Thurn freaks out, asking why he'd be worried about him, and he's just concerned that he'll dishonor the family. Chris says that he was thinking, for a little nerd like his brother, it'll probably be too stimulating anyways, asking if he even knows the rules. Thurn says that gambling is just card games and that he's gonna flatten his nose if he keeps yapping like this. Chris says that sounds so scary, and he hits the Yu-Gi-Oh meme, saying that he's gonna show him that he's a pushover today. They finally make it to where they're going, and it's just a big grand building. Even Mary looks super duper impressed, and Thurn says that he didn't know a building could look like this. Mary says that her heart is starting to flutter. And Chris tells them to stop acting like country bumpkins and to put this on, as he hands a mask to Thurn. He tells Mary that she needs to hide so people can't see her, and he also wants to whisper something to her. He starts doing so as she listens, and she says that she'll go do as she's ordered and disappears. Thurn asks where he sent her, and Chris says that he shouldn't worry about it and they should go in already. As they enter the area, people start to look over towards them as they walk by their tables. Some of the gamblers say they can't believe people so young would enter the lion's den on their own. Chris says that he wants to make a bet with Thurn on who will make more money in an hour, and if he wins he'll call him older brother for a month. Thurn asks if he's serious, and Chris says yes, but if he loses he'll have to call him the Honorable King Emperor Majesty brother. Thurn can't believe he said that shit with a straight face, and Chris says that there's no need to do it, if he's scared, and offers him some money. Thurn instantly yoinks it, saying that there's no way he'd be scared about this and that he's going to be going first and show him how easy this is. Sometime later at a table, a man's saying that it's Chris's victory, and for being young, he plays quite well, and he's sure that he's going to earn a lot. Chris says that when you're first starting out, they let you win a reasonable amount. By instigating the overconfident player, they aim for the moment their prey bet's too big, and he knows exactly how these common works. And of course, we know Thurn isn't so familiar, so he falls for it, and Chris says that he's already caught in their trap, and he tells him that he should just go back home and sleep. Thurn says that he's definitely losing money too, and Chris tells him that he's only lost 500 rupees. Thurn says that he only lost about 1,000, and everybody starts laughing. At the completely justified crash out, Chris says that it looks like everybody here has marked Thurn as a loser, and he's sure con men will try reeling him in soon enough. Then he asks if he's going to continue. Thurn says he will and yoinks the money out of Chris's hands, and Chris says that he's the one who tried to stop him. But he wants him to lose tons and become the perfect bait, as that's the plan to begin with. Sometime later, as Thurn's sitting at his table looking at his cards, we see people cheating as they actively see what's in his hand, and Chris spots their tells, saying that this is perfect. Mary then appears behind Chris, saying that she found the people he mentioned. He says that she did a good job. While Thurn's freaking out, he's low-key rizzing up Mary. A little later, they arrive, and Mary says this is the place. Chris tells her to open the door, and she does so, and as they enter the room, the people start freaking out, asking who he is. Chris takes off his mask, saying surely everyone knows of him. They ask what business he has here, and he tells them to call their master over. A man then starts being a kiss-ass, asking Chris if he really came to visit, and we are introduced to Grantle, the master of the Grantle Merchant Guild. And while he may be known for his talent as a merchant, there's just a little bit more to him, as he's actually the owner of the casino too. Chris says that he wants to have a conversation in private, and Grantle asks what it could be about. Chris says that he conned his younger brother, who he cares deeply about, and yet dares ask him what he's here for. Grantle says there's no way, asking if that sucker in the tiger mask is his brother. Chris says he's corrected as Count Khazar's heir, Thurn. Grantle says that he assures him that all he does is run the casino, and the others do have no relation to him. Mary then gives him some absolute nightmare fuel. I did not know she was like that. That is scary. Grantle immediately apologizes, saying that had he known he was the son of the Count, he never would have done it, and to please show mercy. Chris says surely these aren't empty words. Grantle says of course not. He shall compensate him, asking how much he wants. Chris says he wants 1,000,000 rupees, which surprises Grantle because there's no way they have that much money on hand to do it. Chris says that 200,000 would be enough, and Grantle asks if that's really all it'll take. Chris says there's something else he'll also need to give him too, and Grantle asks what it is. A little later, we see him looking at brand new equipment, and Mary says that she didn't think he would use the 200,000 rupees to purchase gear, and that truly is a super scheme. If you haven't noticed it yet, she has this thing where she loves the word super. But of course, Chris loves the glaze, so he is enjoying it. Mary says that the sword that he got is a bit strange, and we learn that it's called Grenade, and she knows that's the holy sword that a past hero obtained by offering up his soul, and she heard that many fiends want it because it's something that the hero used after his fall. But now it's all rusty. Chris tells her that it's okay because it's part of the plan and hands her a necklace, telling her to take it. He saw her staring at it before, and to just treat it as a gift. She looks so surprised, and he says that it seemed like she would never be able to put her regrets to rest if she didn't get it, so he's giving it to her so that she can move and find peace quickly, telling her not to misunderstand. She says that before she died and even after she did, this was her first time receiving a gift, and she thanks him. Before he gets caught up in the feels, he tells her they should hurry home, and she gives him such an absolutely warm smile. She says that she shall put her whole heart into it as thanks, and from now on she shall make it for him, and that from now on she shall make him blood juice that's even tastier than before. As they walk home, he says that he doesn't want to drink something like that, and they continue bantering. She says that surely he knew that the strawberry juice he's been drinking all this time was blood, and he tells her to stop joking. Chris then says to wait a moment, because he feels like he's forgetting something. Of course, he's talking about Thurn, that he left at the casino. It then jumps to the next day as we hear Thurn yelling out to Chris. Chris wakes up wondering what's going on, and Thurn asks why he abandoned him. Chris thought he forgot something the other day, and Thurn tells him that he was nearly sold off as a debt slave because of him, and that he was lucky someone recognized him. Chris apologizes, but says that it was probably Grantle who helped him out. Though he's addressing him all wrong, since he lost the bet, he needs to keep his end of the promise. And to go ahead and say the words. Thurn looks mortified and squeezes the hell out of the pillow, but slowly starts to say the word esteemed over and over. Chris says that he doesn't know what he's trying to say, and Thurn yells it while ripping the pillow open, calling him the esteemed King Emperor Majesty brother. Chris says this is good, and that he should be sure to respect him and strive to do well for himself as well. Thurn says that he'll have his revenge one day, and to prepare himself. And Chris says that he can't believe such an adorable kid will grow up to kill his older brother, and it's probably all because of him. And he's talking about Eshid, the son of Langham, the acting clan head of the Dark Magic clan, and the rank 1 young lord. He does not feel much about him since he's not the real Christian, but if he wants to become the young lord, he can't avoid a confrontation with him. And that he'll repay this grudge personally. But if he wants to do that, he needs to get Melon on his side, and he looks down at the holy sword that he has. As he's kneeling down with it on the floor, he explains that Grunade at one point, countless fiends attempted to wield it, and the reason this holy sword is treated as just an antique is that no one has been able to do so. And then he's sure that it might react differently to him as he grabs onto his chains. It starts to release a very holy energy that zaps his hand away. Chris looks down at his hand, saying that this is to be expected since it's an artifact created to use the holy power of light. But in the end, it's still just a weapon, and he'll be able to use it if he can just analyze the mechanism that's making it reject the dark energy. As he starts hammering away at it over and over, it begins zapping the hammer with every strike, slowly shattering it upon contact after a bit. Chris asks Grunade if it hurts, and pulls out hammer after hammer, telling it to submit already because he's going to hit it all night. I feel bad for the poor sword. A few days later, at the secret training grounds, we see his father asking if he's done his preparations. Chris says he has, and we see a woman in front of him, and he asks who she is, but he says that he thinks he's seen her somewhere before. He then realizes who it is and greets the Knight Commander of the Black Shadow Knights. She says it's been a while, and we learn that this is his aunt named Marion. She is the daughter of the Elder Clan head, the master of the Dark Magic clan, and the older sister of his father, and Viscount Langham. She protects the Elder Clan head and is in charge of secret missions and surveillance within the clan. She is the elite among the elites, and he wonders why she's here in the first place. His father says that his sister came to visit for matters concerning Cox, and she laughs, saying that he committed quite a cheeky act. Chris says that maybe the Elder Clan head is planning on protecting Eshid, and that might be a bit of a problem. He says it seems the Elder Clan head has plenty of free time tending to such trivial matters. She says he's pretty bold, but the clan head has no interest in the squabbling of children, and rather he seems to be interested in Chris. Chris is surprised by this and says that this might be an opportunity to win his favor. Marion says that she wonders if this is bravery or idiocy, as he hasn't even reached 2 stars yet he is challenging Melon, and that he should call off the duel. He thanks her for worrying about him, but says that he has his own plans, as he starts to show the sword. She recognizes it, asking if that's perhaps Grunade, saying that he must have gone insane, but she knew he was a troublemaker, just not to this extent. We finally learn that his father's first name is Raiden, and she says that he went on and on about how Chris has changed for the better. Raiden says that it's true, and she asks if he doesn't realize that he's trying to use a holy sword in a duel. Chris asks if he's not allowed to use it, and that he just has to win, no matter the method or trick he needs to use. She warns him that even the Elder Clan head failed to tame Grunade, as that holy sword's power will burn him to ashes. Chris asks if that's the case, as he starts to take the sheath off of it. She yells, telling him that it's dangerous, as it has a little bit of a golden light to it. Of course, nothing happens, and she kind of just stares at him. She asks if it's a replica, and he tosses it at her, telling her to check it herself. As she catches it, it starts zapping the hell out of her hand, so she throws it to the ground. She asks how he's doing this, and he says that it's a trade secret that he doesn't want to tell her, but she can be sure of one thing. The only reason why he can wield the sword that even the Elder Clan head failed to tame is because he is a genius. His father can't help but feel proud as hell, and we hear Melon laughing, saying that he's always so fun and entertaining, and for him to have tamed a holy sword is cool, but it's not like that's going to matter, as today will be his last day in this world anyways. and Chris begins to stare at her. If you've watched till the end, comment, Titania, to let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.